Perhaps trying to prove that he does have a sense of humour, the former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer has begun hosting a radio program in Adelaide called The Long Lunch. He and his wife Nikki will be on the airwaves for 2 weeks until federal parliament sits again, and he's required in that other job. But the radio geek has again reminded his critics of the lunch he enjoyed in Canberra last week, skipping out on question time. And they want to know how long the former frontbencher plans to stay on the backbench as the federal member for Mayo. As Nance Haxton reports.
Alexander Downer threw himself into his newfound role as commercial radio presenter with enthusiasm.
The Long Lunch with Alexander and Nikki Downer.
You're back with Alexander and Nikki Downer, and we'll just take a few calls now. We've got Graham from Elizabeth who's on the line. Graham, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alexander. Good afternoon, Nikki.
Hi.
Welcome to the station.
Yeah, thank you. It's not the easiest thing in the world, I can tell you, to present a radio program when you've never done it before.
Mr Downer is presenting the show along with his wife Nikki in the absence of 5AA's presenter Amanda Blair while she's on maternity leave. He's following in the footsteps of Senator-elect Nick Xenophon and a host of Adelaide personalities who have filled in the role in past months. But the move has set tongues wagging that Mr Downer is considering vacating his seat in Parliament. And it didn't take long for a talkback caller to raise the issue with the former Foreign Affairs Minister.
When you went to the people of Mayo during the election, did you offer them a commitment to serve for the term of the Parliament? And if so, will you honour it?
Well, it sounds as though you're interviewing me rather than me interviewing you. But anyway, Michael, yes, look, I just love being the member for Mayo. I'd like to continue as the member there. I've had a few offers to do other things, and so I'm sort of thinking about that, and Nikki and I have given us 6 months after the election to think about what we might do next. But
do you think, sorry to interrupt, but do you think it's right that we can have elections where people put themselves up, and I would go to the ballot box thinking I'm voting for someone who will represent me for, the 4 years of the Parliament?
Yes,
and
I think we're all familiar with those arguments. I think, remember Peter Beattie and Premier Brax, they're people who went to the elections. I suppose people thought they were going to be their premiers for the life of the next Parliament, and suddenly they left. I think John Thwaites, the Deputy Premier of Victoria as well. So, I mean, I think this happens.
This follows weeks of speculation as to the future of the long-serving federal member for Mayo and former Liberal leader, who now finds himself back on the backbenches after holding his electorate for almost a quarter of a century. There are reports that he is well advanced on plans to join corporate lobbyist Ian Smith and former Labor Senator Nick Bolkus in forming a boutique advising firm for blue-chip companies. His commitment to Parliament was questioned when he was caught having lunch with a senior journalist last Wednesday instead of attending question time. A number of names have been touted as possible candidates for Mayo, amongst them Mr Downer's former advisor Chris Kenny and former MPs David Fawcett and Kim Richardson, who were ousted at the last election. For the meantime, though, Alexander Downer remains on the public payroll. 5AA's program director Nick Nolan says the politician isn't being paid by the station, although his wife Nikki is.
The federal parliament has a 2-week break. Alexander Downer is spending a bit of time with his wife Nikki. It's for 3 hours a day. That's all he's committed to the radio station. And, of course, he's got the ability through the radio show to communicate with his electorate of Mayo.
But political analyst Hayden Manning says Mr Downer's move into commercial radio is just another signal that he will be leaving sooner rather than later.
He's grabbed the opportunity to appear on commercial radio, to host his own show. Look, he's a fairly outgoing sort of person. I guess that's appreciated by most people, and this sort of forum, no doubt suits his personality, and it's something to do. But for how long before we hear the news that Mr Downer is indeed going to resign?
That's political analyst Dr Hayden Manning ending Nance Haxton's report.